So look, welcome everyone. Welcome to the presentation, How to Automate Your Work with the Power Platform. My name is Peter van der Zijl. I'm a Director of Client Solutions here at Centrilogic. And over the next hour or so, we're going to explore how the Power Platform can transform your business processes, drive efficiency, and empower your teams. We're going to cover key components of the Power Platform, real-world examples of value, and how Centrilogic can get you started on your automation journey. We encourage you to ask questions during the presentation. We will be monitoring the chat, and we're going to leave time for some Q&A at the end. So why don't we take a quick look at the agenda? So we're going to start with a brief introduction, then dive into an overview of the Power Platform itself, including some of its AI capabilities and how it integrates with PowerApps. Next, we'll explore the patterns of value, which is practical ways that the Power Platform can deliver results, such as application modernization, extending line of business systems, enhancing employee experiences, empowering departments, and optimizing hyper-automation. We're going to discuss a crucial aspect, which is controls and governance within the platform. And then we're excited for Mike Walker to give us a live demo of the concepts in action, which is, I think, going to be a bit of a highlight. He was working on some stuff last night that sounds quite exciting. And then we'll talk about how to get started and how Centrilogic can help you partner to get value out of your Power Platform implementation. So I've kind of introduced myself, but Peter van der Zijl, again, I'm a Director of Client Solutions here at Centrilogic. I focus on working with partners around cloud solutions, specifically Azure and the Power Platform. As you can see by the badge there, I am ex-Microsoft. I spent 25 years at Microsoft, both in New Zealand, which is where I'm originally from, and here in Canada. You can see me in my natural habitat there. I think that's at Revelstoke in BC, so I'm an avid downhill skier. I try to keep up with my local cycling group, normally huffing and puffing at the back of the group, and I also enjoy supporting rugby, which I think if I didn't support the All Blacks, they'd probably take my New Zealand passport away. So why don't I let you introduce yourself, Mike?
Thank you, Peter. Hi, everyone. My name is Mike Walker. I am the Power Platform Practice Lead and Principal Consultant. I manage a team of analysts and developers here at Centrilogic. I've been doing this now for about 5-6 years, and I've been lucky enough to actually get a chance to work with almost every component in the Power Platform. It's been a great journey, and I love learning all the new functionality that's coming out with each wave. I'm also a Scrum and / Agile enthusiast. I have been for over 15 years. I love my Azure DevOps, and anytime I can deliver a project using Agile with Azure DevOps, I'm a happy guy. I'm also a father of two, a husband and an amateur musician, and unfortunately a Leafs fan. So I'm sure there's a few of them on the call as well too, but it was a little heartbreaking to watch on the weekend. But anyways, I thought I'd point it out. Everyone enjoys a little misery every now and then.
Especially if you're a Leafs fan watching a Game 7 in the playoffs, right?
Oh my God. Yeah, so many times. But anyways.
Awesome.
Thanks.
So why don't I take just a minute to introduce Centrilogic? So we are a well-established business, about 18 years in business. We're actually based in Toronto. Most of our staff and customers are in Toronto, but we do have a US presence as well, with headquarters in Rochester, New York. We've got over 300 team members, 700 customers, and a long history with Microsoft. Strong capability highlighted by the certs that you see on the screen, including MVPs, Partner of the Year recognition from Microsoft Canada. And we offer a mix of both managed and professional services. So if you're delivering a Power Platform project, we can actually manage that project for you as well in the cloud, optimize it, all that sort of thing. So we, as a business, have a Microsoft business group delivering most of our professional services. We have a long history with DevOps and application development, and included in this division is our low-code business, so our Power Platform business, which in many cases draws on our professional developer expertise. In fact, Mike and I often work with professional developers on key projects, and we leverage their expertise to help deliver some of these Power Platform implementations. We've deployed many Azure landing zones for customers, set up that infrastructure that you need for the cloud, and then set up security and networking, which obviously goes with it. We provide advisory and knowledge transfer. That slide is advancing by itself. We provide advisory and knowledge transfer on many topics, so Agile, DevOps, cloud adoption. And finally, we have a fast-growing data business. Kind of goes with AI. You need your data to be in place before you do AI, which is growing fast for us as well, with a focus on Microsoft Fabric and Databricks. And we're proud of the fact that we will meet customers where they are, whether it's project delivery, we offer staff augmentation, advisory and training. So whatever you need, we will come in and help you and meet you where you are. In terms of our Microsoft expertise, we have a long history in dealing with Microsoft and working with Microsoft over 17 years. We are a managed partner, which means we get access to the Microsoft sales teams, their programs, customer and also programs and customer incentives, which help customers accelerate their time to value for Microsoft technologies. We have multiple partner solution designations and advanced specializations, which are, these are tough to get. There are audits involved. You need expertise, customers. You need to be driving actual business for Microsoft. So we're very proud of those designations. And then finally, we pride ourselves in the fact that we truly care about our customers and that we find a way to get things done with our highly skilled team. We're not a massive organization, as I said, sort of 300 people plus, but we have a highly skilled team that will help you get things done in a cost-effective way. So with that, with introductions over, I'll pass it over to you, Mike, and you can take us through the Power Platform and beyond.
Thanks, Peter. So I wanted to briefly touch on our Power Platform expertise at Centrilogic. As I'd mentioned earlier, we've covered pretty much every component of the Power Platform over the last 5 years, delivering various projects for our clients. But just for some, side information for people on the call, there's essentially 10 core components or classifications of these, of the Power Platform. So we've got Power BI. Now there's some discussion as to whether or not Power BI belongs with the Power Platform. It tends to be continuously pulled more towards the data side of things. But still, it seems to be under the Power Platform at this point. So Power BI, as you know, it's really more for reporting and dashboards. We've got Power Pages, which is basically a low-code site largely used for external customers and partners. We have Power Apps, of which there's really two kinds. There's Canvas apps and model-driven apps. We have automations, which is really Power Automate. Now, automations kind of falls under two categories. We've got Power Automate, which is your cloud automations, and we've got Power Automate Desktop, which is our, basically where the robotic process automation falls, and it runs largely on a machine or a virtual machine somewhere on your network. We've got, of course, copilots. It's pretty hard to not hear the word copilot on a daily basis somewhere. And of course, Copilot and Copilot Studio is a large part of the Power Platform. Now, underneath those components, we also have Power FX, and Power FX is really the formula language used within the Power Platform. We've also got managed environments. Those are new in the last couple of years, where you have a little more control as to how environments are created and controlled. Dataverse is the native database part of the Power Platform. It's got built-in security. It's the data modeling is quite exceptional in it. I'm a big fan of Dataverse as a database. Of course, naturally, there's a cost associated with using it, but it's extremely secure and very scalable and very extendable using APIs and other connectors to basically update and work with the information stored inside it. We also have AI Builder, which we're going to see a bit of later on this call. And the AI Builder is really a lot of doing sentiment analysis, form processing, and so forth. And of course, it's the connectors. When I first started, there were maybe a few hundred connectors available in the Power Platform, and you pretty much had to roll your own. Now there's over 1,000 plus connectors that you can use to connect to pretty much anything. If you can name it, you can connect to Spotify if you wanted to, or Twitter, or Facebook, or Oracle, or SQL Server, you name it, you can connect to it now. And there's more and more vendors are coming to the table constantly and adding more and more connectors to the platform. You can go to the next slide, please. So surging digital demand. So as we all know, there is a huge push for low-code platforms right now. Luckily enough, Power Platform tends to be one of the industry leaders. There are many competitors out there, but the beauty of using Microsoft Power Platform is that it's normally large organizations already have a Microsoft footprint. They're already using SharePoint and Microsoft 365 and potentially Power BI. So extending that footprint with the Power Platform, and actually some of that footprint is already free depending on your Microsoft 365 subscription. Users can already start to build out their, and automate their world digitally using the Power Platform. So right now, it's estimated that about 50% of digital work can be automated now. And Power Platform is expected to play a large role in that. There's also a developer shortfall, and that's where citizen developers come into play. You don't hear a lot of that lately. You used to hear more of that about 3 or 4 years ago. But citizen developers aren't your classically trained professional developers, but they still have technical skills. They're very good in Excel or maybe Access. And the Power Platform would be a natural evolution for them in terms of automating some of their work. So addressing that developer shortfall by using citizen developers to deliver value for your organization would be of huge importance to so many of these organizations investing in the Power Platform. It's estimated that over 750 million new apps need to be built, and low-code developers taking the burden off of your traditional IT departments is the way to go. With cloud and AI integration, the Power Platform seamlessly integrates with Azure and other cloud platforms and we'll of course touch on that again later today to help deliver that value for organizations. And all the Fortune 500 companies, almost all of them are already using the Power Platform. They're investing in it. There's use cases on it. There's white papers, on those use cases that were, that were delivered and are quite public knowledge. And those Fortune 500 companies are looking to continue to invest in the Power Platform throughout their organization to streamline processes. And these organizations are going to be looking for people. They're going to be looking for people internally to develop the Power Platform expertise and grow that internally within their organization. On the next slide. So how the Power Platform can unlock value across their business. So application and modernization, I got to be careful here because Ricardo's on the call. I don't want to steal any of his thunder. Organizations are always reviewing their inventory of applications, right? They're looking at old technology. They're looking at legacy applications and trying to identify, what's the best way to replace these, these old legacy traditional systems. And the Power Platform is a natural fit in many cases. Not every case, but in many cases, it's a natural fit, especially if the organization already has a Power Platform footprint. Leveraging the Power Platform with the modern tools and the platforms and the connectivity that's already built into the platform, it just seems like a natural evolution for organizations to look to when they're looking to modernize their existing system portfolio or application portfolio that they're maintaining at the moment. Extending their line of business systems usually implies that there's a lot of systems out there that exist. They're on premises or in cloud or some sort of hybrid. Power Platform can connect to both. They can connect to the cloud. They can connect to on-premises systems. They can extend it and streamline processes, which would help alleviate constraints on people and actually free people up to do different work. They're moving away more from processing and more towards analysis and driving business value. I talked about professional development before, the no-code, low-code, pro-code side of things. And Peter had mentioned this as well too. Power Platform professional developers. It's inevitable at some point that when you're digging into a big project, you are going to need to have professional developers at the table. Developers that know C#, that can write C# plugins or JavaScript and TypeScript to be able to extend model-driven apps, or even at the same time too for Power Pages, low-code sites. And the professional tool set for pro-code developers is constantly evolving and improving to the point where pro-code developers are actually giving it a chance. There was a time 3 or 4 years ago where they might turn their nose up at it, but now they actually realize that there is value in running with delivering solutions on the Power Platform. Enhancing like the employee experience, it's an interesting one, largely because a lot, when you look at what you have to interact with on a daily basis with existing tools and applications, it can be a bit of a struggle sometimes when you have a lot of these legacy apps floating around. New tools built on the Power Platform can absolutely streamline the employee experience. Employees can work remotely or out in the field without having to come home, plug in and transfer a bunch of data. You can work offline. You can work offline. You can work remotely. As long as you have a Wi-Fi connection, you are guaranteed to be able to work seamlessly with your applications. And the fact that the employee experience is enhanced also by the fact that all of these systems and applications can integrate with one another, and simplifying that end-to-end traceability for workers. So it just makes their lives a lot easier. Departments on a larger scale, you've got your line of business systems. On a smaller scale, you've got the departments, and really departments can also use Power Platform internally within their own small teams to simplify certain processes. As an example, maybe they have shared mailboxes and they want to monitor these shared mailboxes so that people aren't constantly going to Outlook. They could have those notifications being pushed to phones and desktops and tablets, so that communication is a little more direct and timely, as an example. So you can build out these processes and enhance these processes using things like Power Automate and PowerApps and Copilot to really streamline departmental business systems end to end, to the point where you're actually making people that much more efficient. And then hyper automation. It's a big word, but really it means that using the Power Platform and every component with the Power Platform, you can take significantly complex processes that might span multiple teams and lines of businesses and pull them together using flows and AI and robotic process automation and streamline these complex systems together. That's really where the Power Platform shines. The next slide. So low code. One of the things I love about Power Platform is that you can get up and running very, very quickly. You can, depending on the permissions that you have at your fingertips, you can create dev and test environments in minutes, and you can be developing, within 15 to 20 minutes tops. Sometimes even faster, depending on what the request is. So the time to market when you're building these apps is significantly reduced with the Power Platform. Extending and integrating with the Power Platform, as I mentioned before, is trivial now. Again, you can create your own custom connectors. You can leverage the thousands of connectors that are already there. You can connect to APIs out on the web or internally. The ability to extend these systems is actually becoming easier and easier with every wave release that's there. Governance, of course, it's a big one. The last thing you want is allowing your organization to turn on the Power Platform and just let people build. The challenge you have is controlling that. Now, in the past, it would have been very similar to having all these departments build complex Excel spreadsheets with macros and Microsoft Access databases. You might still be doing it. And a lot of organizations are using the Power Platform to eliminate those. But there are tools and processes that you can leverage to help control, to ensure that you can still scale, but you've still got the right governance in play. Leveraging and creating things like a center of excellence team within your organization, and leveraging the COE toolkit to basically get a bird's eye view of everything going on within your tenant from a Power Platform point of view is extremely valuable to those that require that oversight. So it minimizes the constraints, but allows everybody to have the right oversight. So on the next slide. In terms of business challenges, one of the things that I really liked the most about the Power Platform as organizations are adopting it is a lot of times that internal business process knowledge is within an individual or two in a certain area. And imagine being able to give those individuals the ability to streamline their processes if they know where the pain points are and how to address them, and if they have the right skills, they can actually streamline all of those processes themselves and actually address those challenges as quickly as possible. They can leverage robotic process automation so that you don't have a team of 5 people manually keying in information into a green screen. RPA can handle that for you. Leveraging agents can actually take it a step further and intelligently handle that as well too, as they're monitoring information coming in and processing things like AP invoices directly. You want to support that culture of automation at the same time. You should be able to consider that, maybe we should be automating everything we possibly can. And any organization that kind of adopts that culture will be very successful in terms of streamlining their business and at the same time too satisfying their customers' needs. And of course, scaling, as I mentioned before, Power Platform is meant to scale, but at the same time too, it also gives you all the right controls through COE toolkits and the ability to monitor at the same time to make sure that you've got the right controls in place so that you can still deliver value for your internal clients. On the next slide. Leveraging AI. So this is a big one, and it's getting bigger and bigger, like on a weekly basis. Chatting with Shane Castle, who is our managing director of AI at Centrilogic. He just says, "But wait, there's more," or "Wait until next week." It's quite entertaining to have those conversations with him, but he's not wrong. AI is fast. It's so fast, and it's quickly evolving and impacting everything that every organization is doing. All organizations are looking to adopt AI in some capacity, as it's very evident how it can improve processes, streamline processes, run them faster, run them off hours. Basically, developing a 24/7 type support system or business process system, which would be, you're basically reducing bottlenecks and creating capacity, and basically giving the repetitive tasks to the agents so that your own teams are freed up to do other work. With Copilot Studio and leveraging the low code approach, you can essentially deliver brand new custom copilots in the same fashion as you would a low code workflow or a low code application or an entire low code solution. It's all packaged in the same way and delivered in the same way and shared in the same way. So you still get those amazing benefits across the board. The decision making is key. So, having all of the right data stored properly in, say, Fabric and exposed using Power BI, having all that available for management to be able to, dig into the data, ask questions, find those insights that they need to be able to pivot or change their business processes, or change their product offering to customers based on what they're seeing faster than others are seeing right now. So, on the next slide. So what AI does for the Power Platform. So just like everybody's been seeing Copilot embedded everywhere in Microsoft 365, you see, Copilot for Excel, you see Copilot for SharePoint, you've got Copilot for Word, Copilot for PowerPoint, you name it. Well, there's also Copilot for Power Platform. So you can create your applications and your flows using natural language. With PowerFX and Copilot built in, it can actually write a lot of your code and formulas. I use it constantly for syntax because I'm always forgetting sometimes my syntax. I'm like, why isn't this working? And then I paste it into the Copilot, and it fixes the formula for me because nobody's perfect. It's also good at DAX, and DAX in and of itself can be a challenging language to work with in Power BI. As new people are moving to the Power Platform, the data modeling that's built into Dataverse is amazing. It really helps people who are not necessarily database experts or designers from a data point of view. It really helps them get started in terms of building out their data model for their application. It also helps with things like screen and control refinement, where you can basically control everything down to the pixel, and then cascade that throughout your application. And on the user point of view, for users, they can actually leverage natural language to ask questions of their data within their applications. You might have seen in some cases with model-driven apps, I think it's often turned on by default, where you can capture where actually it'll suggest data content for your form. So from a user point of view, it can actually pre-fill a lot of your form if that makes a lot of sense for you, or you can turn it off if it doesn't make sense. So, just like Copilot is built into everything, it's still built into everything for the Power Platform. I use it quite heavily across the board as I'm writing applications, and it's been a huge help for me, and I'm sure it has been for others as well too. On the next slide. Governance and security. So large organizations, all organizations, this is a huge one. They always want to make sure that they've got the right guardrails in play, that they can see what everybody's doing, who's using standard connectors versus premium connectors. A perfect example would be if there's an outage in SharePoint, and they can identify quickly which applications are using SharePoint, and they can, the administrators can contact those application users to let them know that SharePoint is down, so they don't have to open up 50 different tickets within the organization because things are down. That's just one example, but by default, all data is encrypted. You can leverage data loss prevention policies to make sure that your GL doesn't accidentally leverage the Facebook connector and have Power Automate flow. Of course, identity management is central to everything. Everything is based off of Entra. We used to have multiple admin centers, and now it's just one admin center to manage the entire platform. We've got logging, usage analytics, API automation, data privacy. You can control privacy at the row level and at the column level now as well too. So all of these are now generally available. So governance is there, which is good. So anything that was previously kind of scaring organizations, that should all be, in my opinion, addressed and no longer a concern for many. So on the next slide. So we do have a couple of success stories, recent success stories. So recently we did a large Canadian bank. We helped them with they were a long time user of Pega, which is an older, although there is a new cloud offering, but most banks are invested in the older platform that helps them with automation and connectivity across disparate systems. But it's getting a little more expensive, and clients are looking to move off of Pega and leverage AI on the Power Platform. So we embedded a team within the bank, and we were able to very quickly not only build out an application, but also build common components that were used by other teams, for things where the out-of-the-box controls wouldn't work for them, or they just weren't quite user-friendly for the user base at the time. So we were able to increase delivery. We did a lot of educating and mentoring of the staff. And in the end, the application was considered a success. The client became very comfortable with delivering on the Power Platform, and a number of applications were migrated off of Pega to the Power Platform. On the next slide. This is another one with the provincial government where they had occupational health and safety system. It was a legacy app. It was no longer supported. It was like 20 years old. Tons of data issues with it. Ultimately, they were looking for something that could address all of those needs for them, as well as provide things like reporting and transparency around, basically inspections of all different kinds. We were able to leverage the offline capabilities within Dataverse that were generally available. That actually automatically syncs the information whenever an inspection officer is in an area where they do not have cell service. And so it simplifies as soon as the whole data collection process. As soon as an officer has an internet connection, it automatically syncs the information for them. So it allows for better transmission of information from office to officer and back again. We were also able to build some really nice Power BI dashboards for both officers and for management, for them to be able to see how performance, the month to month and week to week performance, over the last 4 or 5 years, to see if there's been any issues or concerns. All right, on the next slide, it's demo time. So let me take control here. So I'm going to show you a very quick demo. I know it's 10:37. I think it is this one. So everybody can see my screen. Let me know if it's too small. I can increase the size. So in
Mike, we're seeing the presentation.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, not a problem.
Yeah, good.
So a couple of days ago, I came across a video on YouTube. I'm always browsing YouTube for cool Power Platform videos. And there's this amazing Microsoft MVP. His name is Andrew Hess. And he came up with this amazing solution that basically allows him to scan resumes, rank the resumes, and basically summarize content so that it very easily readable. Sorry, I can't even talk. Readable to see, which qualifications are met and which ones aren't within the following resumes. It was an amazing thing. It took about 22 minutes to watch and about 30 minutes to duplicate it, largely because I could have used this about 2 months ago. And once I saw it, I'm like, God damn, I should have done this. Anyways, we're the only thing to bear in mind with this is because we're leveraging the AI capabilities within the Power Platform, you have to make sure that you have AI builder credits within your tenant. So I have credits, so I'm okay. But in the end, you do need to make sure that you have AI builder credits. Also, bear in mind that the more complex your interaction is with your GPT model, the more credits are going to be consumed. I noticed that because when Andrew did his credit consumption was 59, and when I did mine, I was involving more information and it was consuming 69. So what I did was the first thing was I built a SharePoint list. Then in the SharePoint list, we're collecting the name, and then all this information after modified by from left to right are basically key indicators of elements within a resume that I'm trying to get information on. So what I want to do is scan these resumes and pull this information out. Now, when Andrew did it, he was going off of maybe, I want to say, 3 or 4 elements. I wanted to go across a whole pile of elements. So I have an education score, and it's basically if you're a bachelor's degree, college diploma, master's, or doctorate, there's a certification score, and this is based off of Power Platform certifications. And then there's an experience score. Are you considered a senior dev, or a lead, or someone who's a little more junior? I also wanted to know if that individual has JavaScript and C# and SQL. And then I just had a couple of simple ones here around whether or not they know Canvas apps, model-driven apps, Power Automate, Power BI, and Power Pages. So how all this comes together, the idea is I want to just drop a PDF of someone's resume into here. It'll scan the resume. It takes about a minute or so. Runs the flow, scans the resume, and then updates all the fields here to the right. Now, all these resumes are fake. I had gone into Google Gemini, and no one slapped me. And I asked it to prepare 17 resumes for me. And so it did. So I have 17 PDFs. I'm not going to drop 17 PDFs because that'll consume a lot of credits.
Mike, could you zoom in on the browser?
Oh, yeah, sure.
It's really hard to see.
How's that? Better?
That's better, thank you.
No, anything for you, Ricardo. So ultimately, all you need to do is there's a Power Automate flow, which I'm going to show you in a second, that calls a prompt, and the flow executes when a file is dropped in here. The flow executes, interacts with the model via prompt, and then it processes and gets all this information out of here, and then populates these fields. And then I can leverage these fields to see how I want to interact with these individuals, if I want to follow up with them or disregard their resume. So I'm going to drop this one in just to show you what it looks like. Again, these are all fake, so this will just take a second. And waiting is the worst. Still thinking. So what I will do is I'm going to go over here to my flow. Make sure it didn't fail, because that would be horrible, especially after running successfully earlier.
Maybe zoom in a little bit again, Mike.
Yeah. Oh, it completed. Okay, so I'll zoom in on this tab as well too. So this is Power Automate. And Power Automate is where you build your workflows. So in here, I started with a simple trigger. Let me just edit it. Actually, before I go there, I'm just going to back over here and show you guys that the attributes are now populated. So you can see there's David's resume, and I've populated all the attributes to the right. So how all that works is very, very simple. So first thing we start with is the prompt. So this is where you need the AI builder credits. So I started with build your own prompt, but I'm just going to go right into the prompt here to show you guys what it looks like. So in the prompt, it starts up here. So please respond with JSON. So this is the neat part. Usually a prompt only gives you one response, but Andrew would come up with a unique way on how to use JSON, enabled to get multiple responses from the one prompt, which is exactly what I was looking for. So it says, please respond with JSON given the following. And this is where I'm dropping in the resume that I uploaded from SharePoint. I said, please extract the name, address, phone, get the education level based off of, diploma, bachelor's, or doctorate. Please determine the certification score based off of which certifications they have. Determine their work experience, if they're a lead or a senior position, and then rank them accordingly. If they have SQL experience, Java, C#, and so forth. And then what I'm asking for is respond to the prompt in this JSON, which is just the response. So this is just a sample that I mocked up of what I'm looking for to come back. I was able to test it, get the response back over here. We're not going to do that now. But then I've created the model. Now, if I was to test it here, actually, you know what? I'll show you now what it looks like. So I'm going to upload an image, and I will take it is sample resume here, and I'll bring in Ethan Bell. Again, these are all fake. So Ethan Bell is now uploaded, and if I click test, the test results will show up here. And what we're telling Power Automate Flow to do is pull these results and then store them in the SharePoint list, in that list that we saw going left to right. So you can see here, this is 69 credits, but because we're running it in test mode, it's not costing us anything. But once we run it into Power Automate Flow, it's going to cost us. So at this point, the next step is just looking at the flow itself. So if we go back to the flow, and flow that I created is an automated flow. Just edit it. The first thing it does is, with every flow, you need to have a trigger. And the trigger is basically saying, what are the conditions upon which I'm going to execute? And the trigger is when a file is created. Now I'm looking at this particular site URL. I'm looking at documents, and the folder is shared documents, which there's the site URL, and I'm in the documents folder. Then what I'm doing is I'm getting some additional content for that particular file. That was just passed in here. And then this is where the magic happens. I run a prompt. So it knows the prompt here is the prompt that we were looking at here from the left navigation menu. The compose statement is just a way for me to look at the response that we're getting back from the runner prompt. The parse JSON is basically saying how I know what's the full name what's the address, what's the city, and so forth. So this action basically just takes the response and parses it out so I know which one is which. And then I turn around and I update the properties. I go back and I say, I'm going to update this file. And then I pull all these attributes from this parse JSON. And when you run it, what it looks like is this. So when you see all these green circles with white check marks, that's a good thing. If you see red with an X, that's a bad thing. So we know the file that's created, so it's giving us some details on it. We get the file content path. So you can see that's the actual file path that was uploaded. I added David Tremblay to the SharePoint list. Then I run the prompt. Now, if I look here, you can see the response that's coming out. So there's the response. So I can see here, there's the text coming back from the prompt. The compose pulls out the text from this text field here. And then lastly, the parse basically allows me to pull everything out of it in a proper key value pair. And then from this output, I basically update the file properties. And that's it in a nutshell. So it took longer to actually watch the video than it did to process this. And so just to show you, I'll process one more just to make sure, the demo gods are in my favor. I'll grab Ethan Bell again. So like I said, it can take a minute. The more complex the prompt, the longer it's going to take. So when Andrew did his example, you only had 3 or 4 items coming back. I'm pulling like 10 or 11. So that's why it's taking longer and why the credits are higher. So you do need to make sure you've got enough credits in your tenant to be able to do these sorts of things. But most people do have lots of credits. You just want to make sure that you do have them before you get into this. Otherwise, it'll just tell you don't have any credits. So you can see where something like this will be helpful for someone in HR or someone trying to come up with their own weighting with respect to a resume as to, whether a resume, is something that should be under consideration. It's like I said, I wish I'd had this months ago. Very helpful, but okay, there it is. So we now got it. So all the details are there. So now I know where Ethan Bell is from. I have his phone number if I need to call him. I have his email address, and I've got all the weighting in terms of skills that I need. So now I did have it working last night. For some reason, the demo gods are not friends of mine this morning. I had also created a custom copilot and it was pointed to the SharePoint library. And what I wanted to do was start to ask questions of the resumes that were uploaded in the SharePoint library, and it was working. But for some reason, I think it's just because it's a trial version of Copilot Studio, was not a friend of mine this morning. But what I did do instead was in the Power Platform, there are a series of certifications that people should be working towards if they want to work on the Power Platform. There's the PL 900. I think the 100 is deprecated. There's the 200, 400, and 600. Those are specific to the Power Platform. Power BI has its own certs, and as does Azure. Now, what I did do very quickly was I created a Copilot. So I went to copilotstudio.microsoft.com, and I just clicked here on Create. I followed the prompts, and then after I followed the prompts, all I did was I went to Knowledge. I added a knowledge base, and I told it to go to learn.microsoft.com, which was specific to certifications or credentials. And then the idea was that all I have to do is ask it questions here. So let me increase the size of this so people can see a little better. So of course, because I'm a nerd, I called it Hal. And so I can say now, what is the PL 900 certification? And what it's doing is it's going to go out to that URL and the knowledge. Now I'm still in a test area, or I'm still in a basically a test Copilot. I haven't published it, but I'm just showing you guys the art of the possibility. So here it's telling you the details of the PL 900 certification. So this took all of about 3 or 4 minutes to build, and I just happened to point it towards the credentials, so we knew what details were there for certain certifications. As an example, you could point this to an internal source. You could put like an FAQ if you have one in your organization, or an internal SharePoint site. You could point this to public sites, you name it. It's extremely helpful. And I've used it as well just to point it to things like Power BI. And for someone, like if you were building a Copilot for, say, HR, and they need to know more about the certifications, something like this might be helpful for them if they don't want to start searching the internet like crazy for information on certifications. These can be extended with Power Automate flows, with Copilot actions. You can make multiple agents that can work together with each other in Copilot Studio. So the options are fairly limitless at the moment, which is a good thing. You're pretty much just limited by your imagination, which is pretty cool. There are a couple of constraints, like you can't go too many levels deep on a URL when you're building your Copilot agent. You can't go very deep into your website. It has to be fairly high level, like in the first 1 or 2 levels. And I think, I don't know if it's still the case, but some of the other connections, I think you're limited to a handful of SharePoint sites, as well as 1 or 2 Dataverse environments. Those are just the ones that are out of the box, but they can be extended, of course, with custom connectors. So that kind of wraps up my high-level demo of Power Platform, how you can basically leverage the Power Platform to automate some of your work. Like I said, if I'd had that flow for reading prompts 2 months ago, would have made my life a lot easier for sure. But anyways, hindsight's 2020. But if anybody has any questions, happy to answer any.
Any questions, team? That was amazing, Mike. It's incredible what's possible, and particularly with AI, how quickly you can pull some of these solutions together, right? And I hear you. Going through piles and piles of resumes can take time, and that's a pretty cool application of that particular technology. Any further questions from the audience, or did Mike just wow you so much that you're stunned into silence?
I do have a question, Mike.
Okay.
Question: AI builder credits. So,
yeah.
How do you replenish them? How do you keep a stockpile of them? And how quickly do you find that they evaporate on you if you begin to use agents on a pretty intensive basis, or at least prompts?
Great question. So you can purchase them through, just like you would purchase any other license. Through the admin portal. The Microsoft admin portal. So just like where you would go to purchase PowerApps premium licenses or Power BI Pro licenses, you would purchase their from the same portal. In terms of consumption, it's really hard to say. It depends on the complexity of the prompt that you're building. Like my prompt was quite large. It was 2 to 3 times the size of what I had seen in the example that Andrew Hess had pulled together. So it was quite large, but it was only a 10 credit bump compared to what he had. So it is a bit of a feeling out process, but there's documentation on how to calculate credit usage, and also all of the ability to monitor and get alerts on credit usage is there within the Power Platform Admin Center as well as Purview.
Nice. And thank you for mentioning the scale of the prompt as well. It seems that it scales. That the scale of your prompt versus the demo that you saw. It seems that credit consumption doesn't seem to scale linearly with the complexity of the prompt, which is good.
Yeah, and many organizations have AI builder credits. They're just not using them or not aware of them at all. And so it's always worthwhile having that conversation internally within organizations to say, hey, what does our credit builder credits look like right now? Because usually when you start up a new tenant, there's credits available to you, which is why I panicked last night, because my development tenant had no AI builder credit, so I had to pivot and use a different tenant. So, which happens. But yeah, it's worthwhile having the conversation, because I'm pretty sure a lot of organizations have credits that they don't realize are just sitting there.
Sure. That was a great presentation.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah, any other questions? If not, and I see that we are at time, look, thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to come to this presentation. Thank you to Mike. That was amazing. Great presentation, great demo. As you can see, Centrilogic has a lot of skill and experience around building and deploying Power Platform technology, Power Automate, the PowerApps, both Canvas and model driven. We also have folks that work on Power BI as well, although we could argue that is, Mike said, is moving more towards the data side. But feel free to reach out to us.